Hey guys, Professor Lee here, and in this video I'm going to show you the 3 most important years to guarantee that you're a millionaire. This is something I teach to my students every year. I'm a tax professor and I tell them the most important thing I can teach you is this concept that the first 3 years after graduation are the most crucial in your investment journey. And through this video I'm going to talk about why. Most people waste this opportunity and I don't want that to be you. So if you're in school or recently graduated, pay attention. What if you're past these first 3 years and you're like, I didn't do any of these things? Keep watching because these principles still apply to you now. The best time to invest is the present, okay? The most valuable time is right after school, and I'll tell you why, but as time goes on, you can catch up, okay? And there's also, I have a video on it where a 50-year-old could make yourself a millionaire in just a few years based on your higher income, but I'm going to show you why the first 3 years after school are the most valuable. The problem is, graduates, when you first graduate, you've been living on a student budget. You're like, finally, I'm making good money. So you get a better apartment, you get a nicer car, you start eating out more, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden, that 60 grand you're making when you graduate, you realize it's all gone, okay? And those spending habits, people don't realize the effect it's having on their long-term trajectory. For 3 years, if you delayed those spending habits for 3 years, you could have millions of dollars, okay? And I'm going to show you how. That's why you have this opportunity. You're used to living on that student budget. The years right after you graduate are special because you're used to living on such a low amount of income. Now that you have a lot of income, if you just crack down and said, I'm going to keep living on that student budget for 3 years, and I'm going to save and invest that extra that I have, you'll change your entire life. And the benefits are you have a lot of time for that money to grow. So the more you can get in early, the faster it'll grow and the bigger amount it'll grow too. Because you're also used to living on a student budget, it's not a huge lifestyle adjustment to say, look, I'm going to keep doing this for a few more years. And I want to walk through a case study of how you can make this work, okay? Average starting salary of a recent graduate is about $60,000, okay? Some will have a little more, some will have less, but we're going to do a case study with 60. You can make adjustments based on where you're at. I'm going to show you how you can save $23,000 per year for 3 years. You'll have $100,000 in 3 years. Saying, wait, what, Professor Lee, that's $69,000. How does that work? You're going to have tax strategies that allow you to hit $100,000. And if you've watched my other video linked above, once you hit $100,000, that's your most important investing milestone. That's when your net worth explodes. So if you can hit that $100,000 in 3 years, you've done it, okay? And the easiest time to do it is right after you graduate, okay? So this accelerated start will virtually guarantee that you'll hit millionaire status. Practically nobody does this. And that's why we need to change it, okay? And that's why I'm giving you a free tool so you can plan this out yourself. Tax projection, retirement projection. It even includes a budget where you put how much you want to save and it'll create a budget for you. And then you put in your actual expenses and you adjust things to make sure you fit into the budget, okay? So download that tool, johnleephd.cpa.com/tools. Just put in your name and email and I'll send you this spreadsheet. Walk through it. Go do it right now. And you can walk through this projection with your own salary and information, okay? You have an instructions page and then our input page. So put in your current age and the current date. And this first step is calculating your net worth. So you're going to put your assets and your debts, okay? So it's kind of hard to save up during school, but maybe you put some in a Roth IRA, okay? You've heard about a Roth and you have $1,000 in a Roth. Maybe you took out student loans and you're at $20,000 in student loans, okay? So net worth's negative 19,000, okay? Put in your own net worth. I'm assuming 0, right? When I'm saying the first 3 years after college are your most important for investing, during college, those are crucial years as well. Because if you're just racking up debt, you're not working, and you're just taking out all this debt, or you went to a super expensive school, that puts you really far behind throughout your career because you're paying off debts instead of investing, okay? So the better you can do with having no debt throughout school, especially not credit card and auto loans. Got to get rid of those first, but keeping your student loans as low as you can, this will just help expedite your saving status even more. So we're just going to assume 0 net worth when you graduate, and we're projecting a 7% return on your investments. Very common. It's kind of assuming you're in the S&P 500 with a 10% average, and then we're indexed and adjusting for inflation. So we're assuming 7%. You can play with that percentage. And we're saying we're a single individual, state of Utah, and you're making $60,000, big payday right after you graduate. your tax liability, this is the first thing that people don't realize. When they're making $60,000 when they graduate, they don't realize that they're having to spend, and I need to clear our information here. Making $60,000, they're spending $12,600 in tax, okay? $5,200 federal tax, they're paying $2,700 in state tax, Social Security and Medicare. By the time they're paying all these taxes, $12,600 is just tax, okay? That's a big amount when you're making 60. That hurts, right? So I'm going to show you strategies to decrease that, okay? Let's assume that you just started with an employer and they have a 401k plan. This retirement plan, you put money in, and most employers will have what's called a match, where if you put money in, they'll match whatever you put in up to a certain percentage, okay? So you can put your match here. We're assuming a 5% match. If you put in 5% of your salary, they'll match 5%. Now for the strategies, okay? So down here, we're going to apply different tax strategies that you can use. We're going to use the 401k, an HSA, and a Roth IRA. You may have heard these terms. I have other videos that you can look at in understanding these better, okay? HSA is the first one we're going to use. This is my favorite tax savings account / retirement account because it has so many tax benefits and ways you can access that money. So as a single individual, you can put $4,150 in an HSA, okay? Now we're going to max out our 401k to the extent we want to invest $23,000. The max you could put in a 401k is $23,000, but we funded our HSA, super valuable account as well. So we put $4,150 in the HSA. So I want you to put $18,850 in your 401k. So remember, I said as long as you can invest $23,000, we'll get you to $100,000 in 3 years. How does that work? Well, you put 23 away, you get a tax deduction when you put that money into those accounts, both the HSA and the 401k. So rather than paying $12,600 in tax, you're only paying $8,200 in tax. And when you're new in your career, that's a huge amount of savings, right? If you can say, I can have an extra $4,300, that's huge. So really, even though you put $23,000 into those accounts, it only cost you $18,600, okay? But what I want you to do, remember, we want to save $23,000. We only have $18,653 there, right? So that tax savings, we need to go invest that. So we're going to go put that in a Roth IRA. So $4,347. We're taking that tax savings, $4,347, and putting it in a Roth. So that amount's growing tax-free for your whole career, okay? What if we decreased our after-tax cash flows by $23,000? Remember, I said if you can invest $23,000, so we saved $23,000, but we got a 401k match from our employer of an extra $3,000, and we also saved $4,347 in tax. So we end up with $30,347 by applying these strategies, okay? So your investment was $23,000, you got a return of $7,347, $30,000 in 1 year. What does that do? Remember, if you can just crack down, this is the key, $24,401. If you can live on that amount, remember, as a student, you've been living on less than that probably. If you can keep living on that for 3 years, that $30,000 will turn into, if you invest for 3 years, it'll be $100,000 when you're 24.9, okay? And in our accumulation tab, I'll go over here, and let's just assume you've kept that same strategy for your whole career. If you could just save $23,000 a year for your entire career, you literally have $1 million when you're 39, okay? This is with a 7% return, but that's crazy. When you're hitting those values at 39, you're thinking early retirement, right? And as your income goes up, you could even save more potentially. That's like the FIRE movement. When you're 67, you're looking at $9.6 million. Crazy numbers, right? If you kept that $23,000 a year for your whole career, you could do that, and it wouldn't be that hard. You just get used to living frugally. As your income goes up, you could spend a little more, but get the early start. The other thing I want to show you is, what if you just stopped once you hit that 100,000? This is how valuable those first 3 years are. After you hit 24.9, if you literally stopped for the rest of your career investing, what happens to your net worth? Well, you still hit 100,000 when you're almost 25. You still hit $1 million when you're 58 because you've built up enough of a invested balance that it's growing on its own, and it starts to exponentially increase. You can see the graph. You hit 100,000 really fast, and then your money's growing for itself, and it's exponential, okay? And you're still hit by the time you're 67, 1.9 million, and you only invested 3 years of your career. Who's going to just invest 3 years, right? But that's how valuable those first 3 years are, okay? And that's the key. You could save $69,000 in 3 years and have $1.9 million. Who doesn't want to do that, right? So the key is you got to live frugal. You got to use this budget tab. The cool thing about this is this budget will update for you. It says, okay, if you want to save that much in your 401k, HSA, and Roth IRA, this is your monthly budget, okay? You can spend $1,200 on rent and other expenses, and these are your debt payments. But if you have no debt, you can just come in and update those, okay? So come in, play with the budget, and update it. But the key is you can be a millionaire on any salary, but the earlier you start, the better. Those first 3 years after you graduate are the most important. If you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and share with someone. If you're older and you're like, my kids, they need to know this, share this with them, get them started early, and this will change their lives.